Now we've got our jig built. We have test fit or cut all of the pieces. So we have our bottom chord pattern, top left chord pattern, top right chord pattern, and our web pattern. We've got them labeled group numbers so that you don't confuse them with the other groups in the class. Now, we absolutely do not want to assemble our first truss out of this, because while we are assembling trusses, we want the rest of our group to be cutting all of the additional trusses. We need 6 trusses for this shed. So we've removed this and we have traced it onto another set of cords and webs, and we will put those in, and this set will be the very last set that you build. Because if I take every one of these cords, I trace it on a new piece, cut that, trace that on a new piece, cut that, over time, likely the pieces will grow. So tracing it all off of one pattern is the only way to ensure that you're accurate. So we'll remove these. If you're in class, this is the time, foreman, when you're putting someone else on cutting your next set of pieces. It's important that we put our the one marked left on the left side, because there is just a slight difference in the length of these. Now we're going to put on our gussets, and we are going to affix them using construction adhesive and metal fasteners, screws and nails. The first thing we're going to do is take our caulk tube, and we're going to use a 16 penny nail, and we're going to just put a hole in the bottom, and that is going to help prevent this from leaking out the front. Then we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut a hole in this that's roughly the size of a number 2 pencil, maybe a little smaller. Then there is foil down on the inside of here. I need to pierce that foil. If I don't do this step right here and pierce it several times, when I try to squeeze this caulk gun, it'll blow out the back and it'll destroy this caulk gun. So now I'm ready to put some gussets on. So my first gusset goes down here. Now what we want to do is, this doesn't have to be exact, but we like to leave about 1/4 of an inch of the truss showing on both sides. The reason I say that is because if you try to make it flush and you end up accidentally hanging it over the top, that's going to cause you major problems later when you try to sheet the roof. So we're going to avoid that by just leaving about 1/4 inch gap on the top and bottom. So the way we do that is put it where we want it, mark both sides. Now I know where to glue. If I glue right here to the line, when I put it on, it's going to squeeze all out. So instead, I'm going to start back here, and I'm just going to put about a pencil thick layer down both pieces. Now, when I put this down, this is really important. If I lay this down, this may drip on the floor, and if you get this stuff on your clothes, you'll never get it off. So find a board or something that you can let that sit on. Now, put this down, press it into place. It should go right back on the line I made. Now, I can take my 8 penny nails, and I could, if I were to take these and drive these in, I would go right through everything and right into the floor. So it's imperative that I do not try to put nails in at this stage in the game. Instead, I'm going to temporarily affix the gussets using 1 5/8" screws. If you use 2-inch screws, you will screw it right down to the floor. You need at least a couple of screws in each of the framing members. If you go too deep with these 1 5/8", you'll go all the way through. Now I will repeat that for all these other ones. And what I'll do is put them on where I want them. And once again, mark it so that I know where to glue. Put that on that board over there. See, I got a little close on that side, not squeezed out. Not a big deal, but it could cause me could create some messes for me. Now, you're gonna see all of these, so it's important that you don't screw these in all goofy. You want them lined up, you want them flush, you want everything looking really nice, because all of these gussets will be exposed later on. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Put a couple of screws in each of the framing members. Now, because I have 2 framing members here, I can't just put one here and here. I need to get 2 screws in my left side, 2 screws in my right side. Be real careful about getting your hand too close. If you put a screw gun through your hand, your finger, that'll be a lesson you'll remember for a long time. There's a little bit of a gap here. I'm not worried about that, because what I'm going to do is run this through. I don't want to fill this with a lot, because I don't want it dripping out the bottom, but that's going to harden and that's going to give that strength. These trusses are plenty strong as they are, but anything we can do to add strength is a good thing. We shifted up a little bit. Now I got to watch that. That was a 2-inch screw that was mixed in with those 1 5/8" screws. If I put that in, it goes right through the truss into the floor. So you really got to pay attention to that. That gusset shifted up a little bit, but I'm not worried about it because it's not high enough that it's over the top. I still got a good 1/8 of an inch of the truss showing above. All right, these are all temporary. Now, we're going to remove this thing from the jig and we'll lay it over there and put our other side on. If you end up with anywhere where glue is sticking out, don't use your fingers to wipe that off, because you will have a hard time getting it off your fingers. So you want to scrape that stuff off with a piece of wood, set that off to the side. Now, I need to get this out of here. I have to be very careful as I do it, but I'm just going to slowly work this whole truss up. Now, if you got a whole team, then you got 3 people on pry bars. It comes up pretty easily. What you don't want to do is force this thing, because the whole truss you're only held together by a few screws. Now, I got the truss built. I can bring it out, lay it down here and gusset the other side. If I put this on like that, see how terrible that looks? This has got to be lined up, because you're going to walk in the shed and you're going to look up and you're going to see these lines. So that's really important. Down here, you don't see it so much. So down here, I can just set my 1/4 inch. So if foreman, you should have one person putting your lines on, another person using the caulk gun to put everything together. Now, ask yourself, do I need to screw this down? The answer is no, because I'm not worried about going through the floor. Now I have 1.5 inches plus a 1/2 inch plus a 1/2 inch. I got 2.5 inches, and I'll have no issue nailing these in place. I can see just based on this where I got to glue. I'm going to throw a little bit more down in there so that when that hardens, that kind of fills that gap in for me. Now I need to nail these off. It's important. We don't need to put 1,000,000 nails in it. This is a pretty strong structure. It's not spanning very far. But what we don't want to do is put all of our nails in one line of the grain, because all we're going to do is encourage a crack. And so if I'm going to put nails down this thing, I'm going to put them down. I'm going to make it may not look very good to the eye, because it's random, but I know that I'm not in the same grain. You can still make it look pretty good. And the glue is doing a lot to hold this together. All right, so we'll do that across this entire thing. And then the last thing that we need to do is flip this truss over. Right now we have temporary screws. Screws have a really low shear strength. You have to put nails in this side. So whatever you do on the other side to nail it, you're gonna flip it back over and nail this side so that it is fully and completely nailed. And when that's done, this truss is ready. One important thing to remember when you guys are installing these, we had this marked left. When you install these, the left side needs to go on the left side every time. If you have a left on the left and a left on the right, then if your truss is not exactly identical from side to side, then your peak may be off. It may only be 1/8 of an inch, and it wouldn't be the end of the world, but that's one of those details that we can sure watch out for.